because you've said on this show in the past that you think silver's true value if price manipulation were to disappear and price discovery were to occur would be over $1,000 per ounce. Now, I think after it ran to around 120, this is actually looking more realistic. Do you think we're ultimately headed to 4-digit silver, and how long could it take us to get there?
I think 100%, here, I'll be outrageous. We could end up with 6-digit silver, and we could end up with 10-digit gold. But what is that digits? I mean, what do I have here? My little, wherever it is. I always lose it. Here it is. Look at all the digits on my $10 trillion Zimbabwe note. So it doesn't matter. Those zeros, they don't matter. And that's what I try and help people understand, because let's say that silver got to $100,000 an ounce. Well, what is that really saying? Is that saying that silver's value has gone up that much, or that the currency will buy you nothing? So are you going to want to convert it into that currency? Only if you're going to convert it into an income producing asset like that. You're not going to want to even sit on it for 5 minutes. So, that's why. And if you're asking me when, it hasn't been published yet. And I'm really actually quite proud of this. I just finished a series, although I have subsequently discovered I need to put one more piece in it. But I just finished a series on the 5 doom loops of a financial crisis. And I really took my time with this and dug in deep. And I hate to tell you this, but every loop is screaming, and it is a downward spiral that we are frankly already in. I'd been talking about private credit and private equity forever, and how they are incestuously intertwined with the banks, even though all the articles that would come out, oh no, we have no exposure. Look at all the exposure that's being discovered now. Do you think that's all of it? And do you think we've seen all the cockroaches? Because I don't think so. I think we are very primed for the next major financial crisis. And I would be surprised. We'll see what happens. I would be surprised if we weren't in a full-blown, obvious financial crisis. God, I want to say 2 years just because I want to buy a little bit of time, but I honestly don't think it's that long, Jesse. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a rabbit that they have in a hat somewhere that they can magically pull out to keep things going. But the inflation, PPI came in stronger. They changed the rules. There's nobody that's really watching. They're just throwing this data out. We're flying blind. We've got these guys driving this bus into a wall and they have blinders on. They can't see what's happening because they had to convolute their numbers so much to make it look like how they wanted us to see it. But that doesn't change the rot that's underneath, and it doesn't make anybody safe. What I can tell you, especially just concluding that series where I'm pulling up all of these different points, and it even opened my eyes. It's one of the reasons why I love my work so much, is because my job is to dig in. Most people don't have that time. They're just busy trying to feed their family and pay their bills. So I consider myself extraordinarily fortunate to have the ability to really dig in. And this scared the crap out of me, especially since I just finished the 5th doom loop. And I'm like, holy crap, all of these things are already unfolding in a more and more rapid way. And so like it's a spiral. Each doom loop feeds on itself. And then when you get to the 5th doom loop, which is the economy doom loop, the real economy doom loop, then that spirals back to the first one, which is the collateral doom loop, right? Do we see an erosion in the value of the collateral that Wall Street is using? Then it's the intermediary. So, all of these doom loops feed on each other, and that series will start coming out. I don't know when, maybe next week. it's slated to. Totally. Viewers, watch this series. Without a doubt, I can sit here, and I've never said this to you before. We've had lots of conversations. I personally think this is the best work I've ever done.
What are the central planners? What are the banker class, the power brokers doing to prepare for this, the end result of this doom loop? Because we've discussed this before on the show, how governments are seeming to get more and more authoritarian in the West in terms of clamping down on certain speech, in terms of increasing tax obligations for citizens. We saw in the Netherlands, they're trying to literally tax unrealized capital gains, which is out of this world. In my home country of Canada, they're introducing all sorts of anti-hate speech bills. And they're also introducing a new measure to make taxation more of a strict process with less wiggle room for people. It's becoming insane. And I'm just wondering if this is all part of those central planners preparing for the eventual collapse, is to kind of get a vice grip on the citizens in advance so that when it does all fall apart, there's not much that they can do. What do you think about that theory?
That could not be more spot on. It was something that actually came up inside of the series, is stricter and stricter regulations. It's something that I've been watching on some level my whole life, but I've watched that ratchet up since 2008. And so the central planners and the governments, they're putting in all of these restrictions to block the exits, which is why I cannot encourage people enough to get their sound money strategy in place and executed. Because if you do not have this, I'm holding up the physical metals, but it's all of the mantra pieces. You need to have absolute surety and independence in food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, arguably the most important part right now, and shelter. Because if you do not make sure that you have these things locked down, when you lose all of your choices, which is something that we've been talking about, then you have no choice but to do what the government wants. And so, yes, absolutely. What are they doing? They're creating all of those restrictions, and they're setting up to easily block the exits. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. But they're also buying more gold than they ever have historically. Why would they be doing that? After all, silver is more undervalued than gold is. But here's the thing, Jesse. Gold is the primary currency metal, because sound money is supposed to be a tool of measure. I get this question all the time, which is why I'm bringing it up. Well, why wouldn't you just do silver? Because you're thinking of it like a trade. Ooh, it's going to go up more in terms of dollars than gold is. But so silver is the fuse, right? It is a lot more volatile. It straddles, they both straddle both worlds, but this straddles it a little bit more intently, and it gets used up. This is the fuse. This is the anchor, because it is indestructible. So it's really against which all other assets are valued. That's the way it was before, and that's the way it will be again. So yeah, they are tightening the exits. And I'm telling you, people think that I'm crazy when I say, yeah, I could see an overt confiscation. And that's because they've been constantly covertly confiscating your wealth through inflation, through taxation, what you're talking about. If they can get us fully integrated into a digital system, now you've got your social scoring, which is already going on, because after all, I was just reading an article in the New York Times yesterday that was talking about these two close friends that bought a house in, I think, Minnesota, I don't know, somewhere, but they bought almost identical homes in the same neighborhood at the same time. And one's property taxes are twice as high as the other one's. Why? Because the one that has a better credit score is paying less property taxes. So this social scoring, whether people realize it or not, it's absolutely already in play. And once it becomes digital, then we lose all control. And that takes me to, the first form of community is to make sure that you have your food and water and security and all that stuff. But in that wealth preservation, my personal big battle, which we've talked about, is citizens for sound money on a global basis. And to get, I know this also sounds outrageous, but redeemable gold back in the system again. Because I cannot see, and I'm looking, and I'm open to whatever anybody else can say about this, but I see no other way for the public to take back their power than through a redeemable gold as part of the new currency system. And they aren't going to volunteer it. And what I mean by redeemable gold is if you don't like what you see the government or the central bank doing, you say, send me my gold. Because what gold does is it forces fiscal responsibility, and therefore they have to do what the public wants or they lose control because it's back in the public hand. This is the most important thing that I'm fighting for. The most important thing.